What? Okay, let's continue where we left off yesterday. Okay, okay, you have to marry a girl from a proper family and things like that. Now, when is it possible to what's called break off a shidduch? So you made a shidduch and it doesn't work. So certain times, if one side lies to the next, that's a reason to break off a shidduch. Which means, let's say the girl says she's 28 and she's really 38. Now 38 is a much more difficult chance for the woman to have a child than if she's 28.
What if the shotgun lies?
Not if, when. When the shotgun lies, what do you do? But anyway, so there's issues. For instance, what happens if they realize it was a lie, the whole thing to begin with? So then, halachically, in our case, you're allowed to break off a shidduch. But let me explain. There's a different processes we can understand this din better. Years ago, when in the frum circles, when a boy and girl got engaged, they wrote tanoim. Tanoim are the conditions of getting married. Today, we don't write tanoim until mamish the time at the wedding. At the wedding, we write tanoim. Huh? Write tanoim earlier.
Yeah, early.
Okay. Why did the 90, I can't say some of the Hasidic crowd still writes tanoim at the time of the engagement. Why do we write tanoim not earlier, right before the wedding? Because it's brought down in Sfarim that if you write this document called tanoim, which is the premarital document that they're going to get married and all the obligations and everything, and you break it off, you break off a shidduch, it's brought down in Sfarim, there are opinions that hold it's better to get married and get divorced than to break the tanoim. So in other words, years ago, many opinions held, if there's somebody actually wrote the tanoim, and then they broke off the shidduch, they would get married and get a get, rather than break it off. Breaking tanoim is not a very good thing. So one second. So because of that, nowadays we do the tanoim right before the wedding. That means when you do tanoim today, if you ever go to a wedding, especially a Chabad wedding, you write the tanoim, then you write the ksuba, it's all by the Kabbalah's panim, and then the tanoim technically become null and void the second the chuppah happens. The document's over, because the tanoim is that they're going to get married. So as soon as they get married, that paper is good for the garbage. I mean, people save it for sentimental values, but halachically the tanoim is over.
You need that though?
You don't need it. The ksuba you need. So therefore, in many places, they won't write tanoim until later, because God forbid if the shidduch breaks off. But then you go into a lot of complicated issues, because like everything else in this crazy world, a lot of crazy things are happening. People break off engagements much more often than they did in the olden times, or yesteryear, let's put it that way. For instance, let's say Chos and Kala are getting married, and they're paying the caterer and the band and the photographer, and they put down payments in, and everything is going on. And people bought tickets to the wedding, and a lot of money was spent. And then one of them breaks it off. A month before the wedding, they say, you know what? I'm not interested. I don't want to get married. So now the question is, I'm not saying what the halacha is, because it's very complicated. The question is, do they have to pay all those expenses, because now they broke it off? So for instance, it also depends if there's a good reason. Let's say they lied to them, or they found out that person is not what they said they are. He's a crook or a molester or whatever. That's one issue. If a guy comes or a girl breaks up, I just don't like him anymore. That's a different reason of breaking off a wedding that might obligate the person to pay all the expenses or losses of the money that they're not going to be able to recoup. So this is a big issue that happens. There's a lot of dentures with this and a lot of things going on with this type of stuff. So these are the issues that can come up with a marriage. When is a person allowed to break off the tanoim, if it's legitimate, not legitimate, and things like that.
Why
because the Tannaim is a very powerful the document.
Mishapara, what's the?
Mishapara, it's not Mishapara.
I'm saying, what's the idea? Why is it so bad compared to?
Because you've not signed a document in front of witnesses that you're getting married.
Yeah, but if both sides agree.
Doesn't matter. I'm telling you, it says in Sfarim, it's better to get married and get divorced than break off to them. I'm not saying people do that, but there's many opinions in halacha that say that's what should be done. They should, and then you need mechila. It has to be in writing. There's a lot of issues when it comes to the sensitivity of shidduchim issues. You need to make sure there's mechila in writing. Or I'll give you another example. Somebody, in fact, called me about this today, but it's a famous question. You have an older brother and older sister. And the older brother or older sister is not ready or not interested in getting married, but the younger one is in getting married. So according to halacha, the older brother has to give permission to the younger brother to go out in shidduchim. Even before they go out, they need really permission. It's better to even get it in writing, but halachically, the older brother has to give permission to a younger brother or older sister to younger sister. Even, by the way, a younger sister wants to get married before an older brother. That also happens. Girls get married younger than boys. So the boy's just not ready to get married, and the girl's ready to get married. She's, let's say, 20 and the boy's 22. But she's younger. So even then, even though it's not such a big deal, but the girl should ask mechila from the older brother that they're giving her permission to get married. Now you have an issue, and this happens way more than it should. The oldest sibling says, I don't give you permission. Because they're bitter. Nothing's happening. And they're bitter, and they say, I don't give permission. So now what do? There's a lot of issues involved. You need people to talk to them. The Rebbe said, it's interesting, there's an answer from the Rebbe that if a younger sibling gets married before an older sibling, they should put away money for a gift for the older sibling. The younger person should put away a gift for the older sibling. And if something it's interesting, what happens if right now something happens with the younger sibling and then the older sibling is not up, but then the older sibling starts going out and they get engaged and the first one's not married yet. So then it says in halacha it's preferred, if you could do it, that the older sibling should get married before the younger sibling. Even though they got engaged first, but there's an Indian, the oldest, like it says in Chumash, the Yasachem b'm kemeinu lasei satzi'ira l'fnei ha'bechira. What did Lai tell Yaakov? We don't give the younger one before the older one. But there's a lot of issues with that. It's very, very complicated. You need to get mechila with what?
If the guy wants to get married to a woman, and they break it up, can the woman then get married to the brother, or they can't?
They weren't married.
No.
If they were married, you can't. The kid would be a mamzer. But if they didn't get married, they got engaged and he broke it off and then halachically they could. Morally it's not a very good thing to do, you know what I mean? And then you really need mechila from the brother. Then it gets very complicated. There are many stories of people that after they got married, they didn't have children for a while. And the Rebbe told people many times, did you ever hurt somebody in the shidduch process? And if you did, go ask a mechila in writing. And they did, and later they had children. There's a very sensitive, shidduchim is a very, very sensitive issue, with hurting people's feelings. It could affect later on with a lot of issues. So that's that issue. But if you need to get permission. If they don't give permission, you need to deal with the Rav, how to work about it. It comes sometimes a time that the Rav will say, you know what, we're giving you X amount of time, and then you can't keep, because you're not getting married, you can't keep the younger one. You don't want to get married, but the younger one does want to get married. You can't just do that forever. It gets very complicated because, a lot of issues involved. Okay, so that's with asking permission and, okay. Now it says like this. There's an Indian that if somebody marries a Bas Kohen, unless if he's a Kohen, it says if he's a Talmud Chacham, it doesn't matter. But it's interesting. The Rebbe used to tell people who got married to a Bas Kohen, the Rebbe would tell them they should learn a Masechta. Not by heart. They should just learn the tractate of Gemara. The Rebbe said they could even be the small Masechta, Derech Hazuta, those in behind the Gemara. It's not actual. But again, no matter who the person was, the Rebbe said to them when they went into Chiddush and they were getting engaged to Bas Kohen, the Rebbe told them before the wedding, you should learn a Masechta.
Otherwise, there's no problem.
That you should be called. That's enough to be called a Talmud Chacham.
Behind his spirituality should be a little higher.
Even if they learned prior?
Yeah. The Rebbe told people even if they learned and everything, they should still learn a Masechta. Huh?
They're on a higher.
Yeah, in my time there were Bachim that really know how to learn Nigla and Chassidus and really well, and the Rebbe told them, go learn the Masechta. Okay, there's another interesting thing which is Rav Yehuda Chassid. Some people keep it, some people don't.
The names.
With the names. Now what happens if a father-in-law and the son-in-law are going to have the same name? Or a mother-in-law and the daughter-in-law are going to have the same name? So according to Rabbi Yehuda Chassid, you shouldn't get married. But Rabbi Yehuda Chassid takes it even further. But Rabbi Yehuda Chassid, the Tzemach Tzedek, there's a lot, the Rebbe writes a lot on this, but it's from the Tzemach Tzedek. If the one of them adds, first of all, it's only if the names are mamish identical.
3 generations, huh?
No. If the names are mamish identical, like one's Moshe and the other one's Moshe. But if one's Chaya Moshe and one's Moshe, then it doesn't matter. If the names are exactly the same. Again, halachically, there's no basis for this in Rabbi Yehuda Chassid, that some things he wrote people kept and some things not. So what happens if the father-in-law and the son-in-law, the future son-in-law are going to have the same name? So one of them adds a name. Who adds the name? You work it out. But an interesting shaila once, in today's world, is very practical. There was a father of a girl whose name was Menachem Mendel.
Obviously.
Now, his daughter was dating a guy, Menachem Mendel. Okay? So then, he calls me up, and he says, normally the boy changes his name, but the guy has a lot of daughters. He said, it's very possible I'll have another daughter going out with another Menachem Mendel. So instead of the boy changing his name, it would make more sense for me to change the name, to add and not to change, to add a name. So that's what he did. He added a name and whatever.
What did he add?
Whatever.
What?
I don't know what he added. Didn't ask him what he added. What?
The 2 mother-in-laws.
Oh, so now Rabbi Yehuda Chassid also writes that the Mechutanim should not have the same name. Like if one's Mechut Yosef Yitzchak, one's Mechut Yosef Yitzchak, it's also an issue. But again, they add a name. But Rabbi Yehuda Chassid writes, and the Mefashman, Rabbi Yehuda Chassid writes, if one's a Kohen or a Levi, it doesn't matter. With the Mechutanim. Now, the future father and the future father, the girl's father and the boy's father, no, the Mechutanim. Yeah, if they have the same name, but one's a Kohen and one's a Levi, it doesn't matter. In fact, in my family, I have that. I have Yosef Yitzchak, and I have a Mechutin who's Yosef Yitzchak. But the difference is, I'm a Levi and he's not. So it didn't matter.
If mothers too?
Same thing with the mother. What?
If the bride father is the same as
So you had a name. It's not a big deal. You had a name. What?
if the Khatan and Kalaf, both fathers have the same name, then
So it said, if, again, halachically it's not an issue. According to Rabbi Yehuda Chassid, those that follow those things, Rabbi Yehuda Chassid, one of them would add a name. But again, the Rebbe writes clearly, it's not a reason not to go out. You just, one of them should add a name.
If both of them are Akshanim and they don't want to change their name.
I wish him luck for other reasons.
They don't want to change their name.
I wish him both
I'm
luck.
saying is Rabbi Yehuda Chassid something that you have to push for all the way, or is it something that you could...
I had that story once, not long ago, and I told him, listen, fight it out and don't mix me out of it. I'm not interested. Let's work it out. What do you want from me?
Who is this guy Yehuda?
Rabbi Yehuda Chassid?
The Rebbe says it doesn't matter. Who is the?
What do you mean, Rabbi Yehuda
You
Chassid?
said the Rebbe.
Rabbi said it doesn't matter, the shit had a name.
Oh yeah, the Rebbe said that.
Yeah, Tzemach Tzedek said. But
He wasn't only.
Rabbi Yehuda Chassid was in the time of Taisus. It said if Rabbi Yehuda Chassid would have been in time of the Gemara, he would have been one of the Tanoim. If he would have been in time of the Nevi'im, he would be one of the prophets. He's a very, very holy man. Rabbi Yehuda Chassid. Says the Shekhinah rested in his Beis Medrash. Rabbi Yehuda Chassid. So not everything that he wrote, these are all things that he wrote in his will. Savos Rabbi Yehuda Chassid. He wrote a sefer called Sefer Chassidim. But these are things he wrote in his will. So there's a machlekes in poskim. There's a lot of poskim talk about it, whether it applies only to his kids or to everybody. So some things, it's interesting, some things we keep, that people keep, and some things we don't keep. It's very funny, just the way it works. Some things are known to be kept, and some things not to be known to be kept.
So right, only was on the father's name.
Marchat Shinus and American Mech Beba Mahin Kim Shivla Gauter, Hon Gashemet,